the mace, one of, if not the most powerful weapon in Minecraft. And for this video, I'm taking the mace and breaking it down to its core. Now, let's start with the basics. The unenchanted mace is the weakest it can be. You will need to fall 30 blocks with a crit in order to one-shot a maxed out player. Now that is pretty high. Now, as you start to enchant the mace, it starts to get more deadly and more powerful as it goes. From Breach, from the max level of Breach, which is Breach 4, needing only 19 blocks in order to one-shot a maxed out player, and Density 5, which is a maxed out density, only requiring 10 blocks with the crit in order to one-shot a maxed out player. Now, a fully enchanted mace consists of either a Density 5, Fire Aspect, Unbreaking, Mending, and Windburst, or the other variant, Breach instead of Density. But we will ignore most of these enchants and only focus on Density, Windburst, and then Breach. To start us off, we will focus on Density. Now, Density increases the amount of damage per block by 0.5. So a maxed out Density Mace will give you a 2.5 damage increase from the original unenchanted Mace, which will now, as I stated last time, you will only need to fall 10 blocks instead of the original 30 to one-shot a maxed out player. Now, moving on with the Breach Mace, Breach is pretty much the armor-piercing version of the mace. It bypasses, per level, 15% of the player's armor. So a maxed out Breach 4 mace will bypass around 60% of the player's armor. So, as I stated last time, in order to one-shot a maxed out player, you will need to fall 19 blocks from the original 30. Now let's focus on the best enchant in the game for the mace, Windburst. Now, Windburst launches you up 8 blocks in the air. Now, each level is 8 blocks. So at Windburst 3, it is 24, Windburst 2, 16, and Windburst 1, of course, is 8. Now, players will typically choose between either Windburst 3 or Windburst 1. And personally, on a personal opinion, Windburst 1 is the better enchant than Windburst 3. Now, you may be asking, why would I want to go for the lesser enchant? You always want to max out an enchant. I mean, sharpness 5, density 5, breach 4, mending 3. You always want to go for the best enchant in the game. Well, yes, typically. But the mace is different. I mean, try hitting a target 24 blocks in the air with precision and accuracy. It's a little bit harder than 8. Now, why would you want to go Windburst 1 instead of Windburst 3? It's just personal preference. I mean, you can go Windburst 3, but there's a slight difference from them that people don't really notice. Now, here we have two perfectly willing volunteers, and we will show the difference between Windburst 1 and Windburst 2. Now, with Windburst 1, it will launch you up 8 blocks. So if we grab a Wind Charge, and we go like so, as you can tell, I get launched up 8 blocks. Now we go with Windburst 3, I get launched up a lot higher. Now you may be saying, well, I want to go higher, it will do more damage. But that, of course, that's the case with the mace, but there's one thing that I didn't show because these iron golems are lead. Okay? If we put more iron golems in the bunch, so let's say you're dealing with multiple targets at once. Okay? Now, let's show the difference. Okay? Windburst 1 only launches you up and not the target. Now, Windburst 2, on the other hand, launches everyone around the target, which, of course, you can still combo with it, and it does a lot more damage. But everyone else around the target will get launched, which it doesn't necessarily matter if you're only doing it with one target, but it adds up when you're doing when you're attacking multiple targets all at once. So that is why you typically want to go wind burst 1, but of course it's all up to personal preference. As you can see, I could still combo with wind burst 3 and wind burst 1. So again, it's all about personal preference. But now let's get past the basic stuff. Everyone knows about the enchants and the mace and how high you need to fall. But you guys want to see the gimmicky stuff. The stuff you can actually do with the mace and why it's considered the most powerful weapon in the game. And here is some of the basic and more fun gimmicks you can do. Now, let's start with the basic gimmick. Wind charges. Everyone knows what wind charges does. I mean, it launches you up. But do you actually know how to use wind charges? Because there is about 3 different ways you can use a wind charge, not including other gimmicks, but just the wind charge itself. You can, of course, you can do just look down and use either left click or whatever console or on console it would be left trigger, and it will launch you up a certain amount of blocks. Now, there's another way. If you hold spacebar while you're using it, you can go higher. Of course, it requires on ping, but same kind of like technique and whatnot. Just use the wind charge, but this time hold space or press space. Okay, and you can go much higher, using it normally, and then with, of course, it kind of all depends on ping, and then with space. But then there's a third way that some people use, some people don't, kind of all depends, is using crouch and spacebar all at the same time, which will look about like this. As you can tell, I can go higher. But of course, it all depends on ping and when you jump and all that. So, like so. And if you do it enough, you can get kind of good at it. Of course, it all depends on practice and ping. Now, what the wind charge can do with the mace is it can launches you up and you can now combo with it. And why is that good? Well, in order to do a smash attack, which is that cool, amazing sound with the mace and those particles, you need to fall about 1.5 blocks while with a crit. So a crit is with that attack indicator bar on my crosshair, as you can tell. That needs to be full, and I need to fall 1.5 blocks. So this is 1 block right here. I will need to have my attack indicator full, so my crit, I need to fall and I need to, which is hard, as you can tell. Now, typically you want to build up to, say, 3, maybe 4 blocks to get a smash attack. Or with wind charges, instead of needing to build up, all you need to do is go up, and there you go. You can do a smash attack. Now, moving up a level, we have pearl catching or wind pearl. I don't really know the name, but we'll just call it pearl catching for now. Now, what pearl catching is you combine a ender pearl and a wind charge together in order to do some pretty insane stuff. For as example, you throw a pearl up and then a wind charge. It will not like that. You throw a pearl and a wind charge. It will collide with each other and it will send you up, which is great. As you can tell, I got a lot higher, but there's 2 things you can do with this. One is electromacing, which we will get into at a later point, and 2 is, well, height. You can do amazing things with this. Now, of course, it's a little bit challenging because, well, these are really small hitboxes. But if you pretty much, in order to do it, you just have to look straight up, throw your pearl, and then throw your wind charge. And if you do it with quick success, not like this, but all at once, like so, you'll be hitting it almost 100% of the time. But of course, you cannot wait because the pearl will alternate side to side because it will keep momentum. So you need to do it insanely quick, like pearl wind charge, and you will be able to hit with the mace. Now, there's 2 things you can do with this. Of course, electromacing, or if you want to get extra distant, it's called double wind charge. Now, this is an expensive technique. I mean, you are using 2 wind charges and 1 pearl every time you use this. So if you're trying to conserve resources, you don't really want to do this. Typically, you only want to do it once. So now you're balancing out 1 wind charge, 1 pearl. But if you want insane height, you will do something like this. And as you can tell, I just one-shotted an Iron Golem with a Density 5 Mace, just like so, with just a wind catching, with just a Pearl catch. Now, of course, it's expensive. I mean, 2 wind charges, 1 Pearl, it can be expensive, but if you do it correctly and do it well enough, it pays off in the long run. Now, another thing you can do with a Pearl is, well, it doesn't really have a name, but we will call it Pearl uh, pearl blocking. Yeah, that sounds good. Now, pearl blocking is when you use an ender pearl as an offensive item. Of course, most people use a ender pearl as a defensive item to get away from certain people, to create some distance so you can repot or you can heal, or you can use it offensively like pearl catching or pearl body or body blocking. And that consists of, now we didn't really get into why a pearl works. Well, a pearl connects with hitboxes. A wind charge has a hitbox, a ender pearl has a hitbox, and of course, an iron golem has a hitbox, as you can see here. And in order to show hitbox, you use F3 plus B on Java. I don't know if you can see hitboxes on Bedrock, but now a pearl connects with hitboxes. Now a block, as you can see, has a hitbox. So it connects, it does stuff. Now an iron golem also has a hitbox, as you just saw here. I can connect with an iron golem and a player, because as you can see, a player also has a hitbox. So done correctly, you can also do this on a player. Now here we have another willing volunteer, which is now strung up in the air. Now, why is he in the air? Well, let's pretend that the Iron Golem, is a player, and he just used a wind charge to get up in the air. Now, I do not have these, okay? I do not have wind charges. Oh no, what can I do? Well, going back to what I explained earlier with body blocking, I use the Ender Pearl to hit the Iron Golem's hitbox, and then I will quickly switch to my Mace to get a smash attack, or just mace him, as done like this. Of course, it is a lot quicker. It is a lot harder. Damn it. Okay. There we go, as I've done here. And now I can combo him and show why I am better than him. But now, why does that work? Well, as explained, pearls interact with hitboxes. So while he is in the air, he still has a hitbox. So I just pearl onto him and I will pearl up and I will be able to do it. But of course, the only problem is, as you saw, is a pearl keeps momentum. So it doesn't pause in the air. You will continue falling no matter what. So you need to do it insanely quick with insane reaction time. Now, before we move on, if you are enjoying the video, consider smashing the subscribe button and hitting the little bell, as it will help me a lot and I will very much appreciate it. And if you are also enjoying the video, consider giving it a like, as I know you are in fact enjoying the content. And of course, if you ever want to unsubscribe or unlike the video, you can, as it's all free. With all due respect, we will continue moving on with the next technique. Moving on, we now are going to be going over the most powerful mace technique we can do. Elytra macing, one of the most popular techniques. Everyone knows it. Everyone does it. Wembu. We have clown. I think. I don't know. Honestly, I just know Wembu. Anyways, Elytra macing. How do you do it? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You use a rocket. You go up in the air. You go straight back down, and you mace your target. But what does that look like? Well, here's a little demonstration. Now, before we do this, we need to actually be able to do this without using creative's kind of like weird creative thing. So we will hop into survival and we will put on armor, as Elytra macing does a lot of damage to a player if you don't do it correctly. So we will also put on a Totem of Undying in our offhand, and we will also have rockets and our mace. Now, here's what Elytra macing looks like. Okay, you have your Elytra on, and you will go up in the air. Now, do not go too high, as it will be a lot harder to hit your target. So, to combine that, we do not go too high. So typically, you only want to use per one rocket to get up in the air. As two rockets will send you too high, and it's just one rocket is better, and it will conserve a lot better than using multiple rockets at once. So always just keep in mind one rocket to conserve resources and just to be able to hit your target a lot faster. Now, you will go up in the air, and then you will see your target, back down, switch to your chest plate, and then. So that was pretty quick. So let me slow it down for you. Okay? So, to break it down, we went up in the air with our Elytra. We went straight back down. And before we hit the Iron Golem, we swapped to our chest plate, then to our mace, and then we hit the Iron Golem. So we will do that again. As here. So up in the air, swap to our chest plate, see the target, go back down, and not like that. Back up in the air, see our target, straight back down, and like so. As you see right there, that does a lot of damage, as with just one rocket, I managed to one-shot an Iron Golem. Now imagine that, a player with maxed out gear. If I can one-shot an Iron Golem, I can one-shot a player with maxed out gear. Now, electromacing isn't necessarily too hard to do, but of course, when you start combining the aspects of moving targets, smaller hitboxes, as shown here, and people who are good at the game and know how to actually play the game, it starts to get a little bit more challenging. And when they start to implement counters to the mace, which we will go over in a little bit, then it gets a little bit challenging. But the premise is pretty easy. Go up in the air, switch to your chest plate, see your target, go back down, switch your chest plate, and hit the target. Pretty easy stuff. All right. So, as I explained earlier, pearl catching is when you go up in the air and you throw a pearl and a wind charge to go up in the air and do a lot of damage. But I explained that you can also elytra mace with pearl catching, and this is what it looks like. So we have our 3 willing volunteers. Now, what I typically do is I quickly put on my elytra, I go up in the air, I throw my pearl, and now I am in the air. I did not do that right, but then I can now do elytra macing. Now, it's a little bit difficult to do, to actually combo off of it, but the premise is I missed again. Excuse me, sir. Can you stop? Okay, what the? Okay. Anyways, again, the premise is pretty basic. You go up in the air, elytra, grab, and there you go. Now, a thing you can do with pearl catching in the air is you can do it multiple times. Now, it's a little bit more challenging to do it while you're in the air and not stationary, as you see here. Now I am miles away from where I even wanted to be. But it is possible to combo. Oh my god, this is atrocious. Anyways, again, I didn't even throw a. Okay. But the premise is the same. You just go up in the air, throw, have your elytra, and then if you're skilled enough, you can do something like that. But it's challenging. It's not fun to do. It's really not. But yeah, this is pearl catching. Just up in the air, throw a pearl, and then you combine an elytra with it, and I'm gonna go straight back down. Yep. And that's a one way to elytra mace. But then another way is combining just wind charges alone. Now, how to do that is you have to go into glide mode, look down and then straight back up, and you will be able to go up in the air. So we glide straight up like so. And as you can see, I can gain height. And of course, I can do this with any single block. Of course, it's a little bit challenging to do, but with enough practice and skill, you can do it. And this requires you to be able to not do that, but be able to do something like this, where I'm up in the air and I can do this, and so forth and so on. Ow. There we go. And yeah, so there's three ways to light your mace. The main one being rockets, the other one being pearl catching, and then the other one being just wind charges alone. Before we get in with two other macing techniques, we need to talk about one thing: attribute swapping. For those who do not know what attribute swapping it is when you combine the damage and cooldown of one weapon with the enchants of another weapon or item. It doesn't really matter. Just what typically you use it with weapons. So sword, mace, axe, spear, trident, pretty much those main melee weapons. And what that does is, as we all see, the mace has a very slow cooldown. So this is the mace, this is the sword. One makes me feel like I'm turning 40. The other one makes me feel like I'm only wasting a second. Can you tell which one it is? Whoops. Can you tell which one it is? The mace. So, I don't want to wait that long. So what can I do to get the maximum amount of damage out of the mace without waiting? Attribute swapping. What you can do is you can hold, say, a wind charge in your hand right as you're about to hit a target, switch to your mace, and you skip the cooldown entirely. Or you can hold your sword and do an attribute swap and switch to your mace and do more damage. It's kind of just switching from one item to the other to do the best maximum amount that you can do with that item. Now, let's combine the sword with the mace to show just how much damage. So in order from just one wind charge with the standard mace, we can kill an iron golem in one, two, about two hits with fire aspect. But to show it without fire aspect, we will get rid of my fully enchanted mace. We will quickly, oh wait, I have an elytra. We will quickly go over here and we will grab the density mace here that does not have wind burst, unfortunately, but we will just take the density mace just to show the difference. So we will get our willing volunteer here, and we have one, two, three. So three hits. That's a lot. Okay. And of course, I don't have wind burst, so I can't combo it, but that's the premise. Three mace hits with without the sword. Now we get our willing volunteer again, and we combine it with the sword. So this will look like one, two hits. That's one less than the Iron Golem. Now, you may be saying, well, cool, but I don't see anything about a player. Well, I'll show you a clip of PvP Club, a server that is amazing, and I'll definitely be talking more in later videos. But here's just a clip of a sword mace attribute swapping combo. Future Lord Death here. I apologize for the terrible quality of the replay of the one mace clip. It's my first time using flashback, well, not replay, but flashback to actually like show kind of like an outside view of, well, what flashback is used for and replay is used for. Hopefully with time I will get better at like showing it off and all that, but for now, bear with me. I am still trying to get better at recording with OBS, flashback, and just in general. So I do apologize in advance for the quality of it, but it gets the point across. But yeah, I do apologize in advance for just the quality of the flashback. And also, I apologize if you do hear my mouse click. It I have a mechanic Razer mechanical mouse and keyboard, so you can hear me type and use my mouse. So I do apologize in advance for that as well. But with all due respect, continue on with the movie. Not movie. The video past self. Damn. Whoever did that insane combo right there must have had a lot of drip. Anyways, now, what can you do with attribute swapping? Why am I even talking about it in the first place? Well, there's one enchant I haven't really talked about a lot. Yes, you can do all those techniques with this mace, the breach mace. Now, why is the breach mace not less talked about than the density mace? Well, because the breach mace isn't really that good. I mean, as we see over there, the breach mace requires 19 blocks compared to the 10 of the density. And most of the mace techniques require you falling, so density is just the go-to enchant. I mean, I much prefer density over breach. But I'm not saying you can't use the breach mace to be even more deadly. So, let's pretend I do not have let's pretend I don't have an Elytra, I don't have wind charges, and I don't have fireworks. Okay? I don't have any of that. I am strictly on the ground. What can I do? Well, here is where the breach mace comes in. Now, previously we explained about attribute swapping. Now, we combined what we just learned about attribute swapping with the breach mace. So now we take the damage and cooldown of a netherite sharp 5 sword with the armor piercing, which 60% breach mace bypasses 60% of a player's armor, and we combine those two, and we can do insane stuff. And this is where we get into breach swapping. I know, insane naming right there. But the basic name aside, breach swapping allows you to three shot, yes, you heard me, three shot a fully maxed out player. Now, it is a little bit challenging to do. I mean, you have to crit the player and switch to your mace all in one motion, which is a little bit challenging. So, with enough practice, you can do it, but the premise is pretty easy. You have your sword in your hand, you quickly, right as you hit the player, you quickly switch to your breach mace and you follow through with the attack. So it's boom boom, boom boom, and so forth. It's kind of challenging to do consistently, but if you can do it consistently and well enough, you can three shot a player. Three shot. And the thing about a breach swapping is no one really expects you to do it because, well, if you don't really use a mace that often and you're able to pull off a breach swap, you are insanely good. I mean, you can combine that with an axe and they can't block it with a shield because, well, you just counteract their shield with your axe. And if they're not in the air and they're on the same level as you, well, they're in your territory now. You are now the monster. Like you may not be able to go in the air, but at least you can still kill them with your mace. But of course, the downside with breach swapping is, well, it requires a separate mace, like one for density and one for breach. So if you're on a server that only allows one enchanted mace, typically that mace is going to be, well, density. But if you're on a server or on a single player world that doesn't limit maces, then this is when you can start combining two maces. One solely for breach swapping and one for being the eyes in the sky, the A10 Warthog dropping absolute haymakers on players, then, well, do it. Of course, it takes a lot of work, a lot of grinding, a lot of effort, but I mean, who doesn't like a lot of grinding in Minecraft? Now, there is another macing technique that we need to go over before we get into the counters to the mace, and that is, well, Riptide macing or Riptide Trident with a mace. I don't really know the name, but it's a pirate thing. For those who know, if you know, you know. Anyways, so we're just going to say we don't have wind charges, we don't have fireworks, we don't have a Lytra, we have a Riptide Trident, we have a mace, and the basic PvP gear, and that's pretty much it. Okay? I have iron golems, right? Yes, I do. All right, perfect. So now we have a Riptide Trident and a Mace. Now, well, I need some luck. So if we just do give me some, I can't spell apparently. Why can't I spell? Okay, there we go. I can spell now. So magically, I am Poseidon. I am Poseidon, and I made it rain. Now, what can I do with a Riptide Trident? Well, as we know, Riptide allows you to go up in the air. I know. Fascinating. This is gonna hurt. Ow. I don't have it. So, what Riptide Trident can do is, well, if I go up in the air with my Riptide Trident, I can go back down, and not like that, but I can go back down, and I can mace. And I can combo it, so I can do this. Let's go after Ow. It's a little bit difficult. It's definitely difficult, to be honest, but the premise is still there. I can mace, I can go back up in the air, mace again, go back up in the air, mace again, go back up in the air, mace again, go back up in the air, and voila. That's Riptide macing. Pretty basic. Just, it's very situational, to be honest. I mean, if you have a water bucket, you can do it more often instead of waiting for it to rain. But though it's the most powerful when it's raining or you're in an ocean or lake with a body of water. Then you can just go in the water, and then if they're all at shore, you can do it then. But truth be told, it's very situational. Like, you need it to be raining, and there cannot be a roof over your head to prevent you, because if I'm here, then I can't do it, but if I'm out here, then I can. So it is a very situational macing technique, and it's only done if, well, A, you don't have an elytra to elytra macing, or you don't have wind charges, you just have a Riptide 3 Trident, then you can do it. But again, super duper situational and very, very difficult to do. Now, let us talk about the counters to the mace. There is about three counters known. Well, the main three counters to the mace are such: slow falling arrows, building blocks, and a shield. Now, we will talk about the shield first and how to counteract the shield. Now, the shield is pretty well known. I mean, everyone uses it. It's the cheapest thing, and it blocks every single attack. Arrows block, swords block, emotional trauma block. Anything else, it blocks. It is so good. Now, With a mace, it's pretty much a shield. You cannot mace if they're blocking. I mean, you could do a backstab, which you quickly go around their shield and you mace their back, which is very hard to do, but it's possible to do. But pretty much a shield, if they're in the air, you just block. They block the attack, and they can't do anything unless, well, they have an axe and they break your shield, and then they go up back up. But then you can just back away and just watch as they keep trying to do that, and you can just do this. Uh, Pretty easy. And a way to counteract the shield is, well, if we grab a axe, we can do something called a stun slam. And it's hard to show without a willing volunteer that is not an iron golem, but pretty much what sun slamming is it combines what we learned earlier, which attribute swapping and all that, and quickly swapping from one thing to another. And what it does is you quickly break someone's shield, because in Java you can break someone's shield with an axe. If they are blocking, you hit their shield with an axe, it breaks it or stuns it for a few seconds, allowing you to bypass their shield. Now, what stun slamming allows is if you quickly do it, you break their shield, and then you switch to your mace right after you use your axe on their shield, you can commit a stun slam. And it's pretty basic. You stun their shield, aka stun, and then you use your mace, aka slam, and you combine the two, and there you go, stun slam. Now, we have the other technique. The main one is slow falling. Now, typically, if you're going to tip your arrows, you would never use slow falling. But there's two things that slow falling does that prevents the person affected with slow falling. One is it prevents a player from doing crit attacks. Now, what crits do is you jump up and then you hit the person. That's what a crit attack is. And what another thing is slow falling macing requires height. It requires you from falling from one height and then macing your target on the floor or from a different height. Now, what slow falling does is it prevents that entirely. As here is an example. We get our willing volunteer, we do slash effect, give, not give at S, and then we do slow falling for just 30 seconds. Now, I have slow falling, and as an example, I cannot crit as hard as much as I want, and that also involves macing. Now we will build up, we will grab our density mace, and at 4 blocks, I cannot mace. No matter what I try to do, I cannot mace. Now, of course, there's a way to counteract slow falling. You can just wait it out, and then once your slow falling ends, then you can go back to being yourself once again. Or you can block it with your shield, or if you're elytra macing, you can just outrun the arrows. But if there's multiple people with slow falling, you're kind of doomed. You're not going to be able to crit. You're not going to be able to mace. It's just your entire thing is just done in one arrow. But what is another kind of thing? What if they're super poor? What if they're poor chungies and they don't have slow falling? Well, good for you. But what else can they do? Well, they can do something which called umbrelling. It is where you just do this, and voila, they are protected from your mace. I mean, you do not have a clear line of sight over their head, so you cannot actually mace them. And it's pretty much an unstoppable force. I mean, you can always just go you can always just go above their platform and just start breaking it, right? And now I was hiding over there. Now I can just jump down and mace. But if they constantly have a supply of blocks, then well, anytime you break it, they can just place it back, and it's a never-ending battle. And then there's another thing is if you're skilled enough, you can try and creep off the edge. Like if I'm here and they're just say like in this grass here, then I can jump down and mace them, which is a lot more challenging. But if they're umbrellaing, they're going to be in the center, which is difficult to hit. And those are the three main counters to the mace: umbrella, slow falling, and shield. Now, of course, you can't really counteract slow falling unless you have milk buckets, but then that clears every single potion effect you have. So it's kind of just a skill issue. Don't know how to stun slam? Skill issue. I mean, it's challenging. I don't even know how to do it. It is difficult to do. But with enough practice, you can stun slam. Uh Umbrellaing, doing the umbrella method, uh you can break it, uh try and creep around it, or just have skill and go in with a sword or axe. But I mean, who wants to do that when you have a mace? I mean, let's be honest. Like, I have a mace. Why would I want to use my sword unless I wanted one shot you? But like, that's besides the point. But yeah, those are the counters to the mace. It's kind of basic, to be honest. I mean, most of it is very late game. Well, the most powerful one is late game. The slow falling. But the shield and the umbrella method is very early game. But yet again, you can't really get the mace until mid game unless because you need to find trial chambers, which I'm not getting into. I don't want to deal with the trial chamber type of thing. But yeah, those are the counters to the maze. Pretty basic, pretty self-explanatory. Just any way you can prevent them from getting up in the air and falling onto you is a way to counter. Like you can cave, you can go underground, but if they have a breach mace, then that's kind of sucks for you because well now they can just breach swap you and you're dead in 3 hits. But pretty much, if they don't have a breach mace and only a density mace, any single method to prevent them from hitting your body from falling is the best counter. Like building, going up the same level as them. So they have wind charges and you have wind charges. Constantly going up at the same level will help. Shield, like if they're in the air, if you go up in the air with your shield like this, they can't do anything about it. Like even if they try stun slamming, they have to try and match your speed at which you are falling. It's challenging. It's stun slamming is easier when they're on the ground and you're in the air, but again, any way to prevent them from hitting you with their mace can counter them. But a long form of countering is slow falling, umbrella, or shield. But other than that, that's all the counters. If there's more, I don't actually know them, but that's the main basic, the main three of the counters. Now, of course, none of this can be done without hotkeys. And what hotkeys are is your keys on your keyboard, which allows you to swap between every single hotbar, every single slot in your hotbar. And breaching, like breach swapping requires hotkeys, electromacing requires hotkeys. You can't just swap with your scroll with your wheel because you're just gonna either overshoot it, not go to the right item. So electromacing is done with hotkeys. I have a hotkey for my chest plate, a hotkey for my I didn't do that. I have a hotkey for my chest plate, as you can see, a hotkey for my mace, a hotkey for my rockets. I have a hotkey for pretty much everything. As you can see here, I am not on my scroll wheel. I am only solely pressing my hotkeys, which allows me to do insane stuff. Of course, I am freezing up a bit, so I can't really do this, but once I get into my headspace, not like that, I just create him with a, but again, hotkeys is the most important thing with macing. You cannot mace with a with the scroll wheel. I mean, it's possible, truth be told, but I much be able to prefer switching to the item I want. Now, if you want, I can go over my hotkeys in another video, but it's all personal preference. You have to make your own hotkeys. If you don't, and you follow someone else's hotkeys, well, then you are kind of just copying someone else's work. And that's not a bad thing with hotkeys. If you're comfortable with those hotkeys and you practice with those hotkeys, then go ahead. But typically, you want to make your own hotkeys. I want to apologize quickly as I wasn't actually planning on this video being this long. I was kind of in my head thinking this would be shorter of a video, but it didn't actually turn out to be that short. But I'm gonna just roll with it because the mace is a very important item and it has a lot of gimmicks involved with it. So I did just want to post this video and post a little another Mace clip as I have so many. Um, of just again apologizing. I didn't plan on it being this long, but if you did enjoy it, I'm glad.